much for being here today. It's so important. I know that I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, so if ever some of you would like to share my words with the people at home, they are the ones that need to hear it the most. Because right now, there is a psychological operation that has been put on the public, okay? People, what's going on with COVID is so much bigger than what we are told. And people need to realize how they're being played to refuse to play the game. So I wrote something for you today. Hope the wind will let me read it. We find ourselves here today. Wow. Would somebody hold my mic? I'm sorry, it's too windy. You don't mind? Thank you so much. Just like this. Perfect. We find ourselves here today facing opposition from those who would see us all silenced. Some might think it unwise to stand here and speak at this time, but if we relinquish our ability to express ourselves freely today, we might find ourselves forever silenced by government regulations. Why is it that government and media across the country promoted certain demonstrations during full lockdown in the beginning of this crisis, yet as of last night are desperately trying to prevent people from peacefully assembling, discouraging people from standing in the great outdoors, or smearing them in the media has the sole purpose of trying to stop an unstoppable collective awakening of humanity? The cat is out of the bag, and COVID-19 is being exposed as being the most exploited event of our time. By using fraudulent testing that can give false positives, they are giving themselves justification to radically transform our world. The greatest wealth transfer of our times is occurring while our freedoms are eviscerated. The ever-increasing measures will have the consequence of destroying our businesses if we continue to follow the diktats of those who have seized tyrannical power by abusing state of emergencies with no end in sight. A benevolent system would never demonize its population by turning people against each other. Abusers will often blame their victims for the treatment they inflict on them. It is the tactic of cults and totalitarian regimes throughout history. By blaming cases and the need for further measures on those that are misleadingly labeled anti-maskers, anti-science, anti-vaxxers, and conspiracy theorists, government gets to deflect blame from their own actions and onto those who do not agree with the hijacking of our world.
They do.
These people are falsely used as the target of blame for cases, the destruction of livelihoods, the withholding of medical care for non-COVID related health issues, and so much more. It's more convenient for them to have the citizenry blame freedom-loving people for the collective punishment of government than to put the blame where it solely belongs, on the shoulders of those who abuse their power with endless state of emergency. We are not the threat that we are painted as. We are just peaceful people who want to see our children have a future and the opportunity to know what freedom is. We know that ambitions surrounding COVID are global and are much broader than what they admit to in our media. The destruction of the economy under COVID measures enables the creation of a global cashless financial system. This would destroy what is left of our freedoms, as our ability to purchase would be decided by a technocracy. themselves, reduced to a dehumanized product, property of those who would profit off of our submission. We have allowed government to modify every normal, healthy human behavior. The collateral damage on society has been tremendous. Our older children who remember freedom feel it the most. When people have been sufficiently crushed by abusive measures, they will view a comfortable cage as a means to seek relief from what they have endured. The green phase that government is promising is nothing more than a promise of fake freedom. It is comparable to a captor who holds his victims hostage. They say they will only release us into a modified version of freedom once a vaccine is widely taken by the population. We know what mandated products through coercion really means. We know that they will attempt to coerce or force this new generation of vaccines on every human being on the planet.
I don't consent! No! Say no to vaccines! My body, my choice!
This is not an anti-vax issue. It is a human rights issue. Most people value their ability to make their own medical decisions, and with good reason. This is so much bigger than masks. Picture a world where your worthiness to be treated as a human being is determined by technology that would screen your testing or vaccination status in order for you to access a public space, travel, employment, the basic necessities of life. A future where contact tracing would determine if you would be targeted by government consequences for having the misfortune of having been at the wrong place at the wrong time. The moment government, technology, and unaccountable pharmaceutical companies have control over our bloodstream, we and all following generations become property of corporations. We then find ourselves at the mercy of scientific error or malevolence. Informed consent exists for a reason. It is the backbone of medical ethics and is what protects the medical community from having to participate in war crimes. The system is presently abusing our medical professionals by placing them in a position that would have them violate the Hippocratic Oath. Believing one's actions to be benevolent does not negate that if free will is taken out of the equation, the institution of medicine ceases to be medical care and becomes a prison of scientific experimentation. Our frontline workers are also the first to have their bodies violated by forcing them to choose between vaccination and unemployment. The subjugation of one is the subjugation of all, and no one, regardless of profession, should be coerced into any medical procedure. To the enforcers of the rules, you need to realize that your children will have to live in the world you are helping create. Temporary measures of safety usually end up being permanent, as history shows us that once government grants themselves power, rarely do they let that go. Right. This is my plea to law enforcement. Is this what you envisioned when you were younger and decided to become police officers? Did you imagine that your professions would be abused and that you would find yourself one day given the power to break into innocent people's homes in order to give them huge fines for having dinner with their families? That's where we're headed if we keep doing what we're told. Is this what you signed up for? It's not what our leaders are the words, "I'm only following the rules. We have no choice. I'm only doing my job." I'm asking a question to all of us here. If we could go back in time before dark chapters of human history, would we silently follow the crowd knowing what was coming, or would we speak for the good of our neighbors? We have the opportunity to right a wrong before it happens. Let's not waste this opportunity and reach out to our neighbors with love and compassion. There is hope, even though things seem dark. As people, we could put an end to the abuses inflicted on humanity. We don't have to destroy our world in the name of saving it. If people started striving to do what's right instead of what is demanded, we could collectively find solutions to get us out of this mess. Mending the foundations of human relationships and using our hearts to treat each other with respect has the potential of healing the collective damage that media's traumatic psychological conditioning has had on us all. If we cast aside the chains of fear, we can heal our world. So many people, including various professionals from all over the world, are striving to put an end to COVID abuses of power. We may not hear about them in our traditional media, but they are there, helping to save the future for our children. Let us stand in peace and solidarity with them. Let us forgive each other, put our differences aside, and strive for a better tomorrow together. Freedom is only a decision away. It is ours if we truly want it.